Now, Chewy, I've already put this out on Twitter, so if people have seen it, you'll know what I'm about to say. I haven't showed you the footage. In fact, I put this on Twitter today, and someone challenged me to cite a source for what I'd quoted. Yeah, this is the source. General picture. Thinking about the world, do you think that we should be more concerned about gangs, localized, or terrorism? Or at least not even what should be more concerned about? Should we have a concern for both?
Absolutely.
What would you say? What would you say if a cabinet minister said that they would rather a gang member be held to a higher account than a potential terrorist?
What?
Would that be strange?
What?
Okay. So this is the middle of this conversation. Paul Goldsmith gets asked about entering people's houses who are wearing Nazi memorabilia to search for more Nazi memorabilia, and would he be comfortable with that? And it's a particularly interesting question, seeing that's exactly what they've just done with gangs.
Minister, what is the logic there to not prosecute people with symbols of hate, swastikas or other, terrorist stuff, and then go after the mongrel mob? Why not go for both if they're both causing harm?
Well, we're focused here on this legislation on gang insignia, and I think there's no question across society of the negative impact of gangs on our communities. People are fed up with them. They're fed up with the 50% increase in gang membership.
So let's just pause, and I'm not going to hold too long. So he's saying we're aware of the concerns and the dangers around gangs in New Zealand. Do you think we should be aware of the concerns? They've used swastika as an example, like of white supremacy. So should we be concerned about that? Are there aspects of community in New Zealand that are suffering ill effects of that? I would say yes. So this government's now being asked, that group there that are causing harm to parts of community, and then another group which are causing harms to parts of community, why wouldn't you treat them both the same? We'll just get to the answer now.
They're fed up with the 50% increase in gang membership over the last 6 years and the mayhem they're causing in our community. And that's why we're giving the police the extra tools they need to deal with gang people in our communities. And this is part of it. It's also around non-consorting orders and dispersal orders and making an aggravating factor. It's all part of a package to give the police the extra tools that they need. And we're very determined.
He is talk. This would be probably the definition of a word salad. If you don't realize he hasn't actually answered the question, hasn't answered the question about hate symbols and terrorism. He's just talking about gangs. This would be a non-answer, in case anyone was wondering.
To make it work.
Is gangs worse than terrorism?
Well, that's a silly question.
No, it's not, because you're not banning the use of terrorist symbols. And you're banning the use of gang patches. So in your mind, and you've just defended that by saying that gangs cause harm. In your mind, do gangs cause more harm than terrorists?
Well, we're not having a debate about that broader issue at the moment. We're focused on gang membership, and that's what we're focused on here, and that's what we're doing.
If someone
get rocking into Parliament wearing a swastika, on their coat or whatever, would you be comfortable with police having powers to go into their home and find any other swastikas?
I wouldn't be comfortable with it, but that's for police to deal with. But what I'm focused at the moment on is the gang insignia.
Let's do that.
With a gang member?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be comfortable with them going into someone's home to find a swastika?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the gang insignia, and that's the legislation that we're on here at the moment. And what we're bringing before government, what we're going to be passing this week, is a tough piece of legislation that's focused on dealing with the scourge that gangs create in our communities.
Whilst we're ignoring the scourge that not white supremacy and terrorist cells and that kind of stuff, just so we're clear, he was asked, in case you missed it on the audio podcast, would you be comfortable if someone kept rocking up to Parliament with Nazi symbolism, swastikas, would you be comfortable with the police going into that person's house to see if they can locate more Nazi symbolism? And he said, I would not be comfortable with that. So
that's such a gimme, considering the mongrel mob used Nazi imagery.
It's a good point.
It's such a gimme, and he fumbled it.
Just the lack of foresight by this government to actually go, hey, what happens when we should talk through all these ideas about other symbols? Okay, Al Qaeda. Let's pick just a random other one. Swastikas, the National Front. Any of these things that cause harm in society, will cause harm in society. They're like, oh, you ought to be uncomfortable if we squashed their human rights. Gangs, nah, fuck them. Let's do them. No problems. Do we see how we've been talking about this government having their knee on the neck of Indigenous New Zealanders, the knee on the neck of Māori, and trying to squash the most vulnerable? Now, I'm not defending gangs. Gangs cause a lot of issues, but the gangs we have in New Zealand at the moment, made up of a lot of Indigenous New Zealanders, are there for a reason and have come from a place thanks to a previous government and society that treated them in a certain way, right? So it's so we're gonna put our knee on their neck again. But anything else that might be imported symbolism, imported, violence and ideologies or iconographies of violence, yeah, that's just freedom of speech, Chewy. That's just freedom of speech.
Mm. Let's just recap this whole gang patch thing.
Okay.
At no point have they defined what a gang patch is. They haven't put out a list of what insignia that they're talking about. They haven't described the components that make up a gang patch at all. They've just left it wide open, unless I've completely missed it, which I don't think I have. They haven't told us what that is. Every time they're talking to about the gangs, they've talked about the mongrel mob almost exclusively. They haven't talked about many of the other gangs in New Zealand. Or they might have said, Black Power, Killer Bees, those sort of ones. But there are many, many more gangs in New Zealand, and they don't tend to talk about them.
Mm.
This was also the opportunity to do something. Admittedly, I would say that this was crazy, but to class gangs as a terrorist organization. Like there's so many ways that they could have gone with this, and they didn't do any of it. They just fell into a big open pit of, I don't think you want to say this, but you're going to keep going. You have said to a reporter, Nazis are fine, gangs different, gangs worse.
Nazis are fine being Nazis.
You can cover your house in ISIS flags. You can make your living room look like Herman Goering's bloody parlor. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But God help you if you have a mongrel mob patch hanging on a chair in your kitchen where someone can see it from the street. That seems fucked to me, and it seems to be a bad position to try making laws from. Like, it's just bizarre. I still don't think, like, there are states over in Australia where they have banned the display of the swastika.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, not all swastikas, just the Nazi one, which is very clearly you could define it. New Zealand, we haven't done that. You can put a flagpole up in your front lawn tomorrow and fly the Nazi flag. And your neighbors won't be happy, but not against the law.
And just to wrap this up, just so you can see, I'll show you the lovely conversation. This is what I put online today. Paul Goldsmith just said he wouldn't be comfortable police going into someone's home who was wearing a swastika to look for other swastikas, but it's fine to go into someone's home wearing a house wearing a gang patch, looking for other gang patches. Unbelievable. Gaz says, do you have a source for this? I said, Paul Goldsmith is my source. Good enough.
I love these guys. I love these reply guys. Charge in, head first.
I'm only asking because your honesty is questionable. So, of course, you always challenge that. Name one thing I've ever been dishonest about. Remembering that opinions can differ.
Gone.
What have I ever actively lied about? No response to that one. It's kind of weird, eh? There's no response at all.
No.
I don't participate much on Twitter after I post things, but when I do, I love it. When I do, I really do.